Hi. So chances are, if you've ever seen images of a studio, you've probably seen one of those gigantic mixing boards that they have in the center of the room. And you're probably thinking, damn, that thing's intimidating. How am I supposed to know what to do with all those knobs and shit? I promise you, it's really not as difficult as it seems. It's just a bunch of volume knobs. Here, why don't we take a look? So this right here, this is my mixing board. This is a Zoom LiveTrack L12. This thing is the absolute love of my life, but it wouldn't make a very good example for this video. So we're going to take a look at something a little bit bigger. So while my mixer might be my most favorite thing in the world, we're actually going to be talking about something a little bit bigger. So right here, this is a picture of a studio console. Believe it or not, I don't have one of these things. I don't really have the budget for that. But usually when people talk about mixing consoles, this is the first thing that comes to people's minds. This is the kind of thing you would see in a professional studio setting with professional mixing and mastering engineers working at it. See, this thing is exactly the same thing as mine, but it's a little bit too big to talk about in one video, so we're going to look at something a little bit smaller, the Tascam Model 24. The Tascam Model 24 is the same exact thing as that big mixing board, but with like 1/4 of the tracks. Looking at this thing, the first thing that usually pops into people's minds is, wow, that's a lot of controls. How am I supposed to be keeping track of all of that? Well, all of these knobs and these lines here, they all control an individual track, so let's just look at an individual track. So looking at this individual track, we're going to be going from the top down here, and I'm actually going to zoom in a little bit so you can see it better. So the very first thing that we have here is the input section. This is where you would plug in the instrument that you're using to record into the track. So a guitar, a microphone, usually it's a microphone because it says mic right there. I'm not entirely sure what these line and insert things do, so they're probably unique to the board, so I'm just going to skip over them. So the very first knob that we have in our lineup here is the gain knob. What the gain knob does is it controls the amount of input that is being let in through the track. So let's say you were recording a vocal into track 1. If you were to take the gain and turn it up, your microphone would be able to pick up more subtle sounds, like it'd be much louder as well. And if you were to take the gain and turn it down, your microphone would not be able to pick up as much sound. So right below the gain knob, we have the compression knob. So what the compression does is it takes the quieter parts of your vocals and boosts them, and it takes the louder parts of your vocals and lowers them. This is like one of the most important things for mastering because it always makes your vocals pop out a lot more. So moving on to the next section, these blue knobs are our EQ, or equalization if you want to get technical. So in order, it's high frequency, high mid frequency, low mid frequency, and low frequency. So all of these knobs have the same exact function but on different frequencies. I'll just use the high frequency as an example. So if you were to take the high frequency knob and turn it up, it would raise the volume of the higher frequencies in your track. And if you were to lower it, it would lower the higher frequencies in your track. It works the same way for the 3 other knobs. These knobs make all of your tracks unique so that they can sound out in their own way. So for a higher frequency thing like a hi-hat, you would decrease the lower mids and lows, and you would raise the uppers. Now for the last section, we're going to ignore these orange knobs because I don't know what they do. They're probably unique to the Tascam, so we're just going to jump straight to pan. So on the pan knob, you'll notice an L and an R. These stand for left and right. So let's say for a second that you're wearing a pair of headphones and listening to your vocal track. If you were to take the knob and slowly turn it left, the sound in your right headphone will decrease. But if you were to take it and start moving it to the right, the sound in your left headphone would decrease, so it gives it sort of like a 360 effect. It was really fancy back in the day. And now for our final thing, probably the most difficult thing to understand in the entire board is the volume slider. I'm just joking, this is the easiest thing ever. This literally just controls the central volume of the entire track. If you take this slider and you move it up, it turns the volume up. If you take this slider and you move it down, it turns the volume down. Super fancy, I know. So that's basically it for the track. If you just take this and multiply it by 24, you get a 24 track mixer. So it's really not as complex as it seems like it is. Now I could go more in detail and start talking about the recording aspect of the mixer, but that's not really what this is about, so I'm just gonna dodge that part. So yeah, the mixer board is really not as difficult to understand as it seems. I thought it was gonna be difficult at first as well, but I got a pretty good grasp on it. That's it. Thank you.
Stop.